The American story is about slow yet steadily widening the opportunities in America. And make no mistake, too many dreams have been deferred for too long. We must make the promise of the country real for everybody, no matter their race, their ethnicity, their faith, their identity, or their disability.
Welcome back to our special coverage of this presidential election. Exit polls of the early and election day voters show that President-elect Joe Biden's decisive victory was powered very clearly by voters of color, in particular, black voters. 87% of black voters backed the Biden-Harris ticket. That's double its share or amount of white voters, and roughly two-thirds of Latinx and Asian voters went Democratic as well. Now, it is clear that voters of color propelled Biden into the White House, which was something very clearly, very publicly, with all these millions and millions of people watching around the world, something the president-elect went out of his way to address directly last night.
I'm proud of the coalition we put together, the broadest and most diverse coalition in history. Democrats, Republicans, independents, progressives, moderates, conservatives, young, old, urban, suburban, rural, gay, straight, transgender, white, Latino, Asian, Native American. I mean it, especially those moments, and especially those moments when this campaign was at its lowest ebb. The African-American community stood up again for me. You always had my back, and I'll have yours.
That's true, but it's also a statement by a politician leaning into a certain part of the story. There are other parts of this story that will be important to understand in these days ahead, including understanding the multi-ethnic coalition that emerges in this electorate. Because look at this, in all groups except white men, Donald Trump actually still increased his share of the vote, a higher percentage of white women and black and Latinx voters of all genders voting for Trump, this time higher share than last time. We're joined now by Congresswoman Deb Haaland of New Mexico, Lorella Presley, president of the Community Change Action and the Latino Outreach Director for Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign. Paolo Ramos back with us, an MSNBC contributor and former aide to the Bidens and the author of Finding Latinx. And Jason Johnson, political contributor for MSNBC and the Griot. Jason, your thoughts, big picture.
Biden was very smart in shouting out, I got a whole bunch of friends that I didn't have last year, blah, 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 gave them credit, banged down on the table, support black women, et cetera, et cetera. But there's still a lot of work to be done. And as of right now, even when I look at these numbers, Ari, I still have questions. The political scientist in me has questions. I looked at the Emerson exit polls. I looked at the New York Times Edison polls, exit polls, and I still have doubts that Trump could have improved the way he did in so many different communities, given the large number of African Americans in particular who voted early, voted by drop-off, or voted by mail. I don't know if we're necessarily seeing the truest indicator of Trump support, but the fact of the matter is Joe Biden still got the majority of black votes and seems like he's in a position to keep that coalition together going forward.
And Jason, just for our understanding, was that a low-key reference to Drake's Over?
It's over for Trump. Yes, it's over.
I thought I heard that. Lorella?
Yeah, I think it's really important that when we talk about the multiracial coalition that delivered and powered a Joe Biden victory, that we begin to connect that to a governing agenda, right? That we must, in this moment, understand and ground in people's lived experience of deprivation and destitution. What has happened in the last few months, especially because of COVID, it is exposed that we cannot return to a normal that never worked. A normal where 40% of Americans couldn't afford a $400 emergency bill. That if we want to heal, if we want to continue to have this coalition of multiracial voters come and vote, that we must actually start to transform our country. We must reckon with our history and advance an agenda that works for everyone. That's what this moment is about.
Yeah. Congresswoman, I want to play a little bit here from Kamala Harris last night. Take a listen.
My mother, Shamala Gopalan Harris, who is always in our hearts. When When she came here from India at the age of 19, she maybe didn't quite imagine this moment, but she believed so deeply in an America where a moment like this is possible. And so I am thinking about her and about the generations of women, Black women, Asian, white, Latina, Native American women who throughout our nation's history have paved the way for this moment tonight.
Congresswoman, curious what you thought of that. And again, part of our job here is just bearing witness to certain things. This was also a choice to have both people on the ticket speak. That is not typically what's been done in these kind of acceptance speeches, victory speeches.
Right. Well, this isn't an election like any other election, right? So I'm happy that we were able to see our vice president-elect on the stage last night, along with the president-elect. It's a moment that will resonate with so many women of color and young girls across this country. Right now, there are young girls who will never know what it's like to not have a woman of color as a vice president. And for someone like me who is organized for a long time, I've helped so many campaigns through the years. This is the first time, yes, that we have a woman of color on the ticket. Democracy won. It was delivered by people of color. And I am proud that the Native vote showed up as well. The Native American vote was critical in Arizona, for example, in many states, but Arizona in particular. And look, we owe it to ourselves as a country to progress in this way, right? Kamala Harris has such a different perspective than any other vice president that has ever been elected before in our country's history. She will never forget where she comes from. And I think that is one of the main issues that we all hope for when we have folks who step up to run. Because representation truly does matter. And it will matter, it mattered on this ticket, it will matter in the White House, it will matter moving forward on all the decisions that President Joe Biden and a Vice President Kamala Harris will make, even in the first several weeks.
And Congresswoman, it seems like it's still emotional for you today. Is it still sort of sinking in?
Absolutely. Well, I'm an emotional person anyway, but seeing her up there last night was absolutely emotional for me. It's what we work for, right? We want to see representation. This country, we are diverse, and we should have diverse representation. I'm proud also that I should say that, Kamala Harris inspired so many people across this country. We had a record number of Native Americans also running for offices. In fact, here in New Mexico, another Native woman got elected to the New Mexico Senate. So I'm proud of all of us for supporting each other, for making sure that representation is present. And I vowed to leave the ladder down. That is one of my sincere priorities, is to make sure that we get more women of color elected to office.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. Our whole panel stays here. Erin Haynes has just joined us, who's the editor-at-large for the 19th, which focuses on the intersection of women, diversity, and politics. Your thoughts, Erin?
Well, I just really am struck by what Congresswoman Holland is saying. Congresswoman Holland was somebody that we had at our virtual summit at the 19th as one of the historic firsts of that 2018 midterm election. And I think that the point that she makes is the point that, Vice President-elect Harris was making last night, saying that, she may be the first, but she will not be the last. It means something, certainly, to be a trailblazer, but it only means something if you are continuing to keep that door open and bring more people along. We know that women are the majority of this electorate, and yet we are underrepresented in our politics in this country. And so, as the majority of voters, we should have, representation. And that does matter for for women to see, and for young girls to see, the paths that are possible for themselves in this country. And with Kamala Harris now becoming, on her way to becoming the second most powerful person in the country, that is a path that before was not visible to girls, but will now be visible to girls and young women and women going forward. I think this moment, the symbolism of this moment, certainly the centennial of suffrage, but noting the omission of women of color, black women in particular, who fought for their access to the franchise but did not get it a century ago when white women got it, had to fight twice as hard. The Native American women who were not even recognized as citizens in 1920 when the 19th Amendment was passed. I mean, this was all something that Kamala Harris brought with her onto that stage, and that I think a lot of the organizers that I've talked to said they hope that she will bring into the White House her lived experience as a woman and a woman of color. They're hoping that is going to translate into policy, that will not just be something that is symbolic, but that will also translate into substance as she, prepares to govern.
Mm-hmm. Jason Johnson, take a listen to, this is a chaplain from Detroit, Steve Bland, on this evolution.
As goes Detroit, will go Michigan. The black vote in Detroit is highest than it's ever been, and we will determine the outcome because we've gone from picking cotton to picking presidents.
Jason, I think it's well known in the party, the viewers of this program, and in general, the role of black voters. But this synergy we're hearing about right now is black and brown and diverse representation. So not just in the voting bloc getting to power, but as the Congresswoman and others are reminding us, in exercising power.
Look, from picking cotton to picking presidents is the best T-shirt, the best slogan for anybody. Look, that resonated in the black community more than almost anything else throughout this week. That pastor's statement and the way he built to it was amazing. It's like even the reporter was sort of taken aback. But Ari, I think what's important to remember about this is we have to be very specific about who we're talking about here. And I think that's one of the important stories of this weekend. We have to pay attention in particular to how does the Native population work? How did they vote? When you look at Arizona, it's the Navajo Nation. When you look at other parts of the country, it's Cherokee, it's Iroquois, it's different groups of people. We have to disaggregate our discussions about what it means to be Latino or Latinx or Hispanic. That's not the same thing if you're in Florida or if you're in Texas or if you're in Mexico. But I think when it comes to the African American community, we have to remember you're talking about people who still, as a collective, vote Democratic at higher rates than any other group of people. Black men, everybody wanted to talk about celebrities who came out and supported Trump in the last 5 minutes and, whether Donald Trump was going to do better with black men. African-American men voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris at a higher rate than Latino men, Asian men, Native men, and white women. So we still have to be clear that the backbone of the Democratic Party is black women and black men, and that should play a role in how these groups are discussed, the money that goes into supporting people like Stacey Abrams and LaTosha Brown, because moving forward, that vote block is going to be necessary both in the Georgia Senate races and to push through policy once Biden gets into office.
And Paula, your thoughts as we are looking at, and I think we might have the control room re-rack it, this is brand new footage moments ago. We're looking at President-elect Biden on his first full day as president-elect, heading to church there in Wilmington, Delaware today. Paula?
Yeah, I mean, Biden is a person of faith. I'm pretty sure that in this moment, he's thinking of his son, Beau. He's reflecting, right? This is exactly what Beau would have wanted him to do. And what he does is he takes moments for himself and for his family, right? He puts his family first. Instead of being, on the media, on Twitter, playing golf, there you see him. This is our next leader. He's spending time with his family, and I think that says a lot.
And as he's doing that, Paula's right, Congresswoman, the President of the United States is back on the links today. So he golfed yesterday and today, which, among other things, does not reflect or does not seem to suggest that he's in a legal war room or really focused on or doing things related to what his sort of final tweet storm suggested, which was a lack of a concession and a reference to the idea that they'll continue trying to pursue cases tomorrow, cases which, as we've reported, they have the legal right to pursue, but that won't change the outcome.
Exactly. Well, if he's on the golf course, that means he's not tweeting, which is a good thing. But look, yes, Vice President Biden, President-elect Biden, spending time with his family on a Sunday, going to church, that's wonderful. But he's also he's been president-elect for less than 24 hours, and he's already working on getting a coronavirus task force in place to make sure that he can move our country forward. We deserve to have a healthy country, and President-elect Biden recognizes that. So he hasn't wasted any time at all in moving forward on his priorities. And I think that should give us all some comfort that he's not playing golf. He's not lolling, his time away. He's getting to business, and part of his business is making sure that he is practicing his faith, because that's what will keep him strong. That's, connected to his family. That's what will make sure that he is happy, that he's grounded, that he's ready to move forward. And I trust so much that over even the next several weeks as president-elect, he will work hard for the American people.
All really fair points, and there's much to be said yesterday, today, and the days ahead, but really learned a lot and appreciate the candor of everyone on this panel, in this discussion. Congresswoman Deb Haaland, Lorella Presley, Aaron Haynes, Paolo Ramos, and Jason Johnson. Thanks to each of you as we